And thank you to TriDeck for this opportunity. And for those of you that do know me, I'm not in the witness protection program. I just found this is a better way to keep pens extra if I need them in my beard. And I see one of my brethren, Colin Hastings, who I felt like I was looking in the mirror. Not used to seeing that on you either. Yeah, I know. Hold an extra 20 in there. But so we're here today to talk about the new construction and housing. And the way we'll start with this is I'll talk a little bit about the housing industry, how it's affected, and we're going to go through quite a few slides of Tri-Cities, Pasco, Kennewick, Richland, and West Richland, and how they've been affected this past year, what they've done, and then things that we can look forward to in the coming 2014. And being with many presentations from Aja, our local economist, I'm giddy as I stand up here right now after listening to her. It all sounds very good. And then, of course, with our budgets coming out with Hanford, all very good for the housing industry. So some of the things that happen in our industry is the residential construction industry is a reaction industry. And by that, sometimes you'll hear people say, well, they're building too many houses. Well, the reality is, for builders and developers, they're not going to build it and hope that they come. They're going to build it if they know that they're there and if there's a need for it. So the unemployment rate, the jobs, and the local economy all have a very big effect on the housing industry and whether or not there's actually going to be opportunities. And as most of you know, nobody wants to be told what type of house they're going to live in. Everybody doesn't want to live in an apartment, a townhome, a condo, and not everybody wants to live on a 1-acre parcel. So consumer-driven industry, and by that we mean that you have the choice to live wherever you choose to, with however many acres you would like to have with that. And so the builders do not build it hoping that somebody will fill that. There are certainly those opportunities that happen, but it is a consumer-driven industry. We talk about the ABCs of housing: affordability, balance, and choice. And all of those get affected by state and local regulations. We talked a little bit earlier about Obamacare, and I find it funny because now they're calling it the Affordable Care Act because it's not as great as what it was billed out to be. Well, in the housing industry, that would be the Growth Management Act. The Growth Management Act, its intent was to keep housing more affordable. And in essence, the exact opposite happened. And I'll show you some of the things that happen as we look at some of our local jurisdictions on how that affects us. Builders are helping people achieve the American dream and providing one of the basic necessities, shelter. So for most of us, we'd like to have our own place when we leave the parents' nest, however long that may be. And now they've changed the health insurance law so you can stay at home longer and still have health insurance. But most of us want to get out of there. So this does provide one of those. And we always talk about, it's the builders live in the same community. They want a great community to live in as well. And so their ultimate goal is to build a nice community to live in. So let's start looking at some of the permits and what happened this past year. I know it's going to be hard to see, but I will help you with this. 2013, this is the city of Kennewick, 277 permits were pulled. This goes back over the past 5 years, going back to 2009. And I'll go back to October 2008, Shearson Lehman went belly up, affected everybody. Tri-Cities can get out of the way of most things, and we do live in a bubble, but there's certainly some things that we can't get away from. And one of those is lending and banking. You have to have money to be able to build. And I will tell you, back in when everything went horribly wrong, back in 2009, it's still, to this day, some of the residual effects of being able to get money to build is difficult. The average value in Kennewick, and this is just so you have a comparison, but last year it was $248,000, this year it was $230,000. And again, that's with more permits going in. And this is just an average value, taking the number of permits by the total value that they had in the city of Kennewick. And as most of you know, the area that's big in Kennewick right now is the Southridge area, which will continue to grow as Trios gets built. Single-family residential permits in Pasco. Okay, we talked about the Growth Management Act. One of the things that it does, it allows you to impose impact fees on houses, and that's without, in our opinion, it is a tax. And it's a tax that we don't have a vote on. Okay? So when that went in, back here in 2011, so 483 permits, and I'm not here to say I told you so, but we told you so. So 35% off that first year and 35% off again the second year. We'll come back to this again. But so as Aja told you earlier, the median age in Pasco is 28. So I'm also not going to tell you that they're not at the baby producing age. Pasco is. Okay, with 65,000 residents, they are poised to continue to have more because they are right in that wheelhouse of that. Average value in Pasco, probably not what most of you would expect. $246,000 a house, that's more than Kennewick. So they went up from 230 to 246 as an average. Probably not what most of you thought for Pasco as an average price of house. Single-family permits in Richland. So again, going back to 2009, after the deluge, tax credits, and then just kind of leveled out. Richland, their next big area is Badger Mountain South. That's getting close to getting ramped up and rolling. You might have seen in the newspaper today, they've got some challenges they have to overcome. But we see as Richland that that'll be their next big growth area is Badger Mountain South. The values in Richland, they went from 287 up to 303. Single family permits in West Richland, off a little bit, 138 to 135. Not much of a change. Average value in West Richland going from 241 to 260. And if any of you haven't been out in West Richland in a while, there are quite a few new houses out in that area. Benton County up from 101 to 116. A lot of the areas, if you look at the maps and where the urban growth boundaries are, like Benton County, a lot of theirs comes out in that Cottonwood area off of Badger Mountain Road. Average value in Benton County, $313,385. That's off a little bit from the prior year. Franklin County from 51 down to 33. So one of the notions that we talked about with Pasco and the impact fee was, well, that might push people out to the county. The reality is, when you're 15 minutes from anywhere in Tri-Cities, I don't know about you guys, but you're about 15 minutes to anywhere in Tri-Cities, it doesn't have to be that you go to Franklin County. It could be that you go to within the city of Kennewick boundary, city of Richland, or somewhere else. They obviously didn't go to the county. And as you'll see with the average value being $367,000 in Franklin County, most of that's property that you have. There's a lot of property that goes along with those parcels out there. Single-family permits, average values. So this one is just taking all of Tri-Cities, taking Pasco, Kennewick, Richland, and West Richland, putting them together, and this is the average value, and seeing that it's going up. 261 last year, 268 this year, 1,143 total permits for Tri-Cities last year to 1,024 this year. Off 119 permits, which is 119 new housing construction starts, 110 of those were attributable to Pasco. So there was 9 through the rest of Tri-Cities. So the biggest drop again was in Pasco. And permits issued by jurisdiction, here it is, Kennewick out here at 277, Richland 250, Pasco at 203. Then you got West Richland and Benton County just behind that. Here's a pie chart to make it a little bit easier to follow. Here's Pasco over here, you got Kennewick up here, Richland down there, and then West Richland over here. Pasco used to be 40 to 45% of all the new permits that were being pulled. And as Aja shared with you as well, one of the fastest growing counties in the country. And so certainly it needed to slow down a little bit, but should it have slowed down as much as it has? This is another way that we look at this chart. So this is total permits pulled, starting back at 09. There's Pasco, Pasco, Pasco. And as you can see, it's trailing now behind some of the other jurisdictions. on how many permits are being pulled. And so as we look at our numbers going forward, one thing that builders, developers certainly like to have is predictability. And in talking about predictability, yes, they need to know what those fees are, but when you have jurisdictions that are this close, and when I say jurisdictions, when I talk about City, Pasco, Richland, Kennewick, if it costs more to build the same size of house here, and you can save $5,000 by building it over here, you're probably going to take that one that's going to take $5,000 off right off the top. So here's the permits over time, and this is going all the way back to 1994. I'll have another graph that shows the interest rates that go along with this. And this is back when obviously times were good and we were doing twice as many houses that were going in. And this last year we're at 1,024. And this just shows you how many houses have been pulled, and we are certainly affected by Hanford, the budget, interest rates, and the national economy. As the mood changes, even in Tri-Cities, it's hard for us to escape the national mood. And so right now, as we had this great year with the stock market, everybody's 401ks are doing a lot better. Good time to be a financial planner because you had a great year. Even if that was your first year, it was a great one. Total permits issued by jurisdiction, and this is going for the last 10 years. So you got Pasco here at 4,380. This is out of 13,000 total permits over those 10 years. They had 4,380, so just about 40% of all the permits pulled the last 10 years were in Pasco, and now they're about 20%. So we'll see how long that continues to hold, as the projections that they used for the number of fees that they're collecting to offset the impact fee, if that actually comes to fruition. Permits in Pasco, so here they are up here. So 11, 12, and 13, these are the 3 years together. And this is Pasco compared to the rest of the jurisdictions. You see most of them are fairly stable in where they're at. And so as some of these other developments continue to come online, we expect that they will continue to increase. So, and this is to the percentage change in single-family permits 2011 to 2013. This is Pasco, 56% change in number of permits pulled. So of all of our jurisdictions, you know, we talk about how if development is going well, then that means the economy is going well, because we are a reactionary industry. So we need economic development. And so there's outside factors, and we talk about how regulations and fees, the housing industry is one of the most highly regulated industries, barring the nuclear industry. So if new home construction were counted as a single employer, it would be the third largest employer in Washington State. So if we took all the builders and put them together in Tri-Cities, it would be the seventh largest employer in the Tri-Cities MSA. So the construction industry as a whole is a big player nationally in the GDP, in the state, but construction we can't do it, that it can't be done. This cannot support a city by just building a house and everything else following in line. Has to have something to build for. This is where it would sit. Some of these numbers are dated, but there's Battelle, P&L up at the top. Single-family residential construction will come in here, and that's building 1,000 homes. So the year that we built just over 2,000 homes, that number would double from where it was, because that many more hands are needed to complete those projects. So this is Tri-Cities' total sales activity. So here we have existing home sales. So all the sales that are, all the houses that are on the retail market right now that are not new construction. This is 2012. This is 2013. So 27% of the houses in 2012 were new construction and 23% in 2013. This does not include the builders that do not use a realtor. So this is just using MLS data. So there is more new construction than what's shown here. And this is looking at the numbers, just looking at the pie chart. You got 2013, there were 2,528 total existing houses sold and 768 that were new construction. And these are the total number of sales for 2013, 3,295, a very good year going back to 2003, which was 2,794. So great year last year for real estate transactions. We know some of those reasons why. Some folks got motivated because they heard interest rates might be going up. Good time to do it. Don't wait any longer. This is new construction compared to existing construction and the average price. So new construction $268 and old construction being $208, and that's in 2013. And I guess the one thing that I'd like to point out on this is, so when you guys are house shopping, I know a lot of us tend to look at the price per square foot. And so when you do that, you have to make sure when you're looking at A versus B house, price per square foot, does it include granite countertop? Does it include a walk-in shower that's all tiled? I mean, there's so many variables that go into a house when you look at just the square foot, price per square foot. You could get misled on thinking, well, this is just a more expensive builder than this house over here. It's the components that go into it that actually make up that cost per square foot. So a history of the 30-year mortgages. I don't know where you were back when Jimmy Carter was here, but not a good time to be a home builder. Back in 1982, in Tri-Cities, 45 new houses were built in 1982. But at 17% interest rates, you can understand why that might be. So as you heard today, interest rates going to go up just a little bit, probably going to hold through 2015. Still a great time. So fewer mentions for Tri-Cities, and part of the reason for this is we don't have, this is not a comprehensive list. There might be a couple that we missed on there. Looking at TriDeck's list, there's one that you guys have on there that we do not have on there. But the reality is, around the country, things are starting to get better. And things are getting better in Florida, in Boise, in Bend, Oregon. They're starting to build again. So as that national tenor changes, it changes all around the country. We don't become such the spotlight that we were before, and that's okay. We're doing well here, and that's okay. Flat or no growth for this 2014, moderate increases for existing home sales. So when we look at this, over these last couple of years, with the budget outlook for Hanford, with the unemployment rate that we have, we should sustain what we had this year, if not have a little bit of growth. The home values in our region have continued to be, and that was one of the things that we've continually topped the charts on, is the home valuation in Tri-Cities. Yes, the stock market has been great, but any of you that own a house in Tri-Cities, one of the best investments that you can possibly have. Increases in new home prices. So there's two factors that come into that. One, we have materials continue to vacillate. So as the national economy starts to turn with construction, a lot of the folks that used to be in the construction industry are no longer there. They got another job somewhere else. So the labor force for the construction industry is tight. The suppliers of the products let those guys go. They trimmed down their operations so they weren't producing too much lumber, gypsum, to drive the price even lower. So now the price is starting to go up on materials because there was no activity before. And so now with all this pent-up demand that we had, there's going to be certainly some backlash with that. And then, of course, the other one we watch along with Chris at AWE is a $15 minimum wage obviously would have a drastic increase to everybody in the construction industry. So that's certainly one of the things that we watch. So I will just leave you with this, that the home builders, this is Dave Pearson from Nike. I had an opportunity to listen to him in Portland, but this is what he had to say about the home builders, that they have a really big place in creating communities. And I guess that would be the takeaway that hopefully you guys all get from this, is that the builders that are here in your community truly do care about it. They care about the schools, and they care about the way it looks, and providing opportunities to have one of the best communities in Washington. And so with that, thank you for your time, and enjoy the rest of your day.